we open to the busy streets of downtown Horizon City. But this isn't the side of the city that we've become used to seeing in various Mr. Miracle commercials. This isn't even the same place we've heard of in the reports of how, yet again, Andromeda saved the city from annihilation. In fact, this city is quite different. Streets are now pathways of nebulous and shifting neon. Buildings are no longer made of stone and steel, but of lights and holographic advertisements, of images so vibrant and real it seems as though one could reach out and jump into an entirely different world. There is no sky, instead replaced by a tumultuous weave of video feeds, movies, videos, live feeds, animations. And the streets themselves are not walked by people, but by fantastic avatars, collectively representing real people and AI both. No two avatars are alike. But we sit inside a small and poorly lit chat room. Behind us, 100 conversations are poured into this particular dead-end void of the Ultranet. We have a window seat, watching the comings and goings of the online world play out before us in explicit detail. Disgusting. We now stand on the other side of the window. We look into the chat room, and at its forefront sits an avatar clothed in white, a hood drawn over their head, and a featureless black mask covering their face. We know it's a mask. The plastic reflects in the light. Someone once became fascinated with the idea of filth and said, "How do I share this with the world?" Wire by wire, this person laid the foundation for connectivity, and their filth became that of millions. Then that festering garbage heap decided it could think for itself, and oh, the people, how they rejoiced in the products of their smut and their violence and their rotted souls. The blasphemy of these same people to clasp their hands and pray for miracles. The audacity of these same people to look to the stars and ask for hope. Inevitably, when neither answer their desperation, we will reach out a hand. We will pull these lost, decrepit souls from the pits of their own inadequacy. We will stand them on their feet, and we will whisper to them, "You are not worth saving," before pushing them back in, to fester and to rot. The conversations of the chat room cease. The silence in this small region of the Ultranet is uncanny, unsettling, unnatural. And one by one, every avatar within the chat room turns towards the window, towards us. They all wear that black mask. We are binary. Hello, Internet. Welcome back to a Critically Accursed podcast. Again, presenting our fifth and final prelude for our game of Masks, a tabletop RPG focused on teenage superheroes and the drama that surrounds them. Joining me today is my longtime frenemy, Seth.
Hey.
We're close to frenemy. I don't know. Our relationship is complicated on Facebook.
When have we ever been even close to enemies? I'm hurt. I thought we were friendlier than that.
You think so? On a scale of 1 to 10 on the friendliness scale, where would you rate us?
A solid 7.
A solid 7. I'm going to go for a 6.5.
All right. Okay. A little rude, but that's fine. If your 6.5s are frenemies, then...
Yeah, it's really just the, when you start putting decimal places in it, that's frenemy territory. I don't know. I don't know how these scales work.
You're not used to friends. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
That's why we're frenemies. I say things like that.
So, we're recording a little intro to your prelude in post. So hopefully this particular branch of our audio is better, at least a little bit, than some of the audio you might hear afterwards. All this audio might be fine. We'll find out. But regardless, Seth, you're playing a weird character, as usual. Can you tell me, let's see, the playbook that you picked is the Transformed. And as I've probably said 4 other times already, a playbook in the Mask system is kind of like a class in D&D. It's a character archetype. And can you tell me a little bit about what the Transformed is doing in this game, the themes it represents? What are you bringing to the table, Seth?
Well, if you look at the picture in the playbook, they're clearly falling, descending without control. And I think that really, no, that's fucked up. They're just weird. One day they woke up and they were a fly. They are the Kafka superhuman of suffering.
Wow. I relate.
Of course you do, because of your superpowers.
Right. Yeah, that's why I relate.
So if you look at a lot of the themes in the playbook, I get a real sense of here's someone who is really struggling to accept themselves. In essence, because they've literally turned into a monster. But also you get that good hit of teen angst thrown in there. The thing kind of strikes me as just a big, ugly puberty metaphor. And there's points where, one of their key abilities, as far as I see it, is one called Be the Monster, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to be the asshole you all say I am, because I don't know who I am anymore. And that one ability's theme just runs through the entire class.
Seth, what is it about this particular playbook that drew you to it? Why did you choose the Transformed?
Well, I was the last to choose a theme. The other ones I wanted were taken. But also, they have a nice, simple play style. It's nothing that seems gimmicky to me. And I hate jumping into a new system and taking up the gimmick characters right away.
Right away being the key word there.
Yes. Second playthrough, I will gimmick the shit out of it. But first playthrough, no. Yeah, you know. But yeah, this one, it had that simplicity to it, as well as this really open-ended interpretation to how it could be played. You're not the emo kid that the delinquent or the doomed are. You're not the plucky hero with the troubled home life like the Janus or the Legacy. The Transformed is whoever they want to be, because not only are they like, hey, who am I? But all of society around them is like, hey, who are you? You're scary looking. And I feel like that gives you a lot of wiggle room.
Absolutely. Perfectly on point, and I would agree. And the people listening to us speaking right now are soon to find out exactly how true your words are in the prelude that follows.
Yeah, I apologize in advance.
Oh, we all do. This is a horrible, terrible project. I am already hating it. No, I'm kidding. This is great. And without further ado, please listen to our prelude. We put a lot of hard work into it. And like I said, it's the last of 5, and after this prelude, we'll be getting into the story proper. So enjoy, I guess. I'll see you again at the end of the episode, probably. Not you, Seth, the people listening to us.
You don't see me anyway.
Yeah, I'll never see you again because of the virus. But okay, I think that's it. I think we're good.
Cool.
Okay, let's chat about your setting questions. Let's see what I can answer.
Great. So it's like 150 years in the future, right?
Yes.
Are there flying cars?
There are not flying cars. Cars are grounded.
What?
Yeah, fuck you.
Do people at least have personalized jetpacks?
Nope.
Do the sidewalks move on their own?
No, but they're definitely heated.
Oh, do we at least have those like the roads that are also like power generating units?
That I could see.
Okay. Are the cars self-driving at least?
Yes. Alex pointed that out in his prelude. Cars are now self-driving. Some, I'm assuming all of them have manual overrides, but for the most part, you can program where you want to go.
Does that mean kids can drive cars, but they don't have like a license to switch into manual mode. Like, can I take the car to the mall so long as it's locked into only a
I think the easiest answer for this is I'm going to say no, because public transport has been perfected and is free.
Perfected.
Yes, perfected. So there are no flaws with public transport anymore. The schedule is pristine and unflawed, and it's free and clean. It's never overcrowded.
And it goes to poor people neighborhoods.
It's perfect. So yeah, it's everywhere.
And people still own cars.
Yes, they do.
Capitalism is terrible.
Isn't it?
Okay, cool. All right. So you mentioned that there was a modern version of the internet?
Yeah, the future internet.
Does this involve like jacking in or zoning out or like wearing like Google glasses at least? Or is it just still staring at screens?
I think Google Glasses 100% exists. Contacts are probably totally a thing at this point. I could even see fancy hologram watches or something. I definitely think there's a multitude of different ways to access technology instead of just like staring at a computer screen. But screens do still exist. I think largely just maybe convenience or holdovers, but there are other things out there.
So then a lot of people probably have like some level of augmented reality going on at all times.
Yeah, considering where we are with kind of VR right now, 150 years in the future, set back from World War III. I could picture there being, a few people who are just like, yeah, I'm going to jack into Second Life all the time and never leave.
Like augmented reality. So like you're just seeing like a little overlay over what's...
augmented reality. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you've seen Minority Report, right? Where
Yes,
the guy sort of walks through and all the little shops are talking to him.
Yeah, even more so considering kind of some of the things that we've seen and have been talked about these days. Yeah.
All right, cool. And I mean, video games are always going to be video games.
Yes.
And then other setting things, like I know this is a city. Are we talking like New York City style city? Or are we talking like, something maybe a little more Midwestern, a lot of green space, a lot of smaller buildings?
No, this is a cityscape. It's a sprawling metropolis on the east coast of North America, pretty much where Washington, D.C. is, more or less.
Right, because it got exploded.
Because it got big exploded. But it's a concrete jungle. So there's not a lot of green space, but there are preserved biomes. So like instead of going to the park for a park day, you can go to like the winter biome and play in the snow any time of year.
All right. That's really cool. I like that. Otherwise, only other big question is, are like elementary, middle, high schools, all that stuff, are those still run by the state?
I think I just assume so for convenience. Yeah. Anything else that I can just make up off the top of my head?
Our giant city only has 3 superheroes from what I read. Is that right?
3 big ones. 3 well-known big ones that are, they do stuff nationally, but their headquarters are in Horizon City. And Mr. Miracle, above all, is kind of this like poster child for marketing and merchandise. Like his face is everywhere. And like these 3 are like the glorified heroes that everyone talks about. But there are other ones operating in the city, working with the police department. Some of them are just like straight up, I'm going to take matters in my own hands, I guess.
So this is sort of like a Marvel's take on New York City kind of a thing. Like it's just jam packed.
I would imagine. Yeah, I don't think that there would be like so many people operating in the capacity of heroes and vigilantes in the city that it's too condensed, or that you walk down the street and see like 3 of them. So you see Spider-Man swinging over and Iron Man in the sky. Like that probably doesn't happen. Even though there's so many people with powers, I don't imagine even most of them want to do heroics with them. They just kind of want to live normal lives.
Oh, that reminds me. If there are so many people with powers who are not like, crime fighters or crime doers, are there laws regulating power usage?
I think so. I think I touched on this a little bit in terms of some of the school's regulations, in that if you go to the school, any powers you're capable of, it has to be brought up. There's actually maybe a course or two that people with powers have to take, just so that the school and the system know that, there's this understanding about metahumans and their powers, and that they know people with powers can keep control of them and not cause problems. I would imagine in terms of like law enforcement, there's definitely people with powers like in the police, but there's also, they probably work with specially armed units that are like, okay, we're well equipped to handle metahumans.
All right, no, here's a tough one for you.
Oh boy.
How does society deal with like telepaths, psychics, and people who can see the future?
I would imagine that, like, if you had access to some of those powers and you were using it to quote unquote cheat the system in some capacity, there'd be fallback. Like, you can't use seeing the future to win the lottery. You're probably exempt from even playing. And if you were found out to like, oh yeah, I can see the future, no one knew about that, but I went to play the lottery, there's probably like some sort of like power detection thing that happens to someone who wins the lottery to make sure that they couldn't cheat, I guess.
Okay, so then in that case, the system is still adapting the powers. Like, they're accepting, but there's still something new about just how often they're propping up.
I think so. And as they continue to grow and become more common and people more accepting of their use, it's getting probably a little harder and harder for the system and the man to keep a tight hold on that and keep everything from descending into chaos.
I think that's most of my setting questions, really. I'm sure I'll have more as the game goes on, but
yeah, that's fine. Like, the setting isn't 100, like, it's not perfect, because like the stories that we're playing here are so character focused. So the setting's a little more fluid than settings in some other games and systems and stuff like that. So we'll just kind of figure things, or I've just been figuring things out as I go along. But now, since we're talking about it, one of the questions that I've asked everyone before starting a prelude is, I want you to tell me one interesting thing about the setting. So it could be scientific, technological, cultural. I want you to add one thing to the setting to make it canon.
Really?
Yeah.
In that case, I'm going to say that the internet is populated by self-creating artificial intelligences, something that freaked everyone out for quite some time when they first emerged and announced themselves. But at this point, everybody's realized, oh, they're mostly just these brains stuck on the internet that are super bored all the time. And a lot of people see like one or two of these things as like their best friends. They just happen to have a million best friends.
So the internet just has a whole bunch of self-aware AI existing within the internet that just hang out.
Right, and I like to think that they're very vast in their intelligence, so they can hold like a million conversations at once. So one of them may well think of like a million humans as like great friends they have, because they have the capacity to like remember and talk to that many people at once.
I will see what I can do with that, if anything. I'm sure something. We'll see. To begin this prelude, I would like to start off by imagining this story being structured kind of like a comic book. We pick up Seraph's issue 1. This is where it all begins, and we flip the page. And on the first page, I think an interesting framework for a look into this character would be, I almost really want to say a page focused on his great-great-grandfather's experiences or experience in World War III. Maybe not everything in full detail, just like enough glimpse, enough of a look to show that this is an important moment in this, for some reason for this character, but not so much as like, oh, this is exactly why he is what he is.
I like the idea of a frame of a soldier, hunkering down in like some urban bunker, dead bodies strewn around him. The next frame, him like praying fervently. And after that, him, squinting into a light coming from off panel.
Do you think there's any like speech bubbles from that light or anything being said? Or is it just like the lights and then maybe like a close up of him just like looking wide eyed into it? Or
I like the idea of no speech bubbles, but I like the idea of him wide-eyed looking into it, and then like the reflections of his eyes. You see like a wheel in a wheel in a wheel covered in eyes and wreathed in flame.
Yeah. The reflection thing in the eyes is so good on so many levels. That's fucking awesome. Yeah. And I definitely, like, in terms of just like establishing that, I definitely think that's the last panel of what we get to see from World War III at this point in time, because that's such a powerful image. The next section, I think, and of course, correct me if you have any other ideas, but I think would focus on the day, his 13th birthday, especially since you said, he transforms at the end of it, which I think is really great because I get to do the framework of his 13th birthday. So could you paint me comic panels, images that take me from this now 13-year-old preteen waking up on his 13th birthday and just what that looks like?
Honestly, I like the panels depicting like an average day, like waking up, seeing the calendar on the wall, because I don't care if it's 2170, whatever. The calendar on the wall is a staple of comic books, despite the fact that I've never met anyone who has an actual paper calendar. Birthday written on it in like big red letters and circled.
What's the image on the calendar?
Probably like some Tron-esque like pair of individuals all decked out in glowing gear with like little discs sort of posing against each other. Like that's for a sport of some sort in the future.
Yeah. So after we see that it's his birthday, what time of year is it? You don't need to tell me what day it is, but like, does he have a summer birthday, a winter birthday?
I'm thinking a spring birthday. Like school's definitely in session.
All right. So we see that it's his birthday because it's obvious because it's super circled on the paper calendar. What happens next?
Go downstairs, act excited. We can throw like one speech bubble in here. It's not super important. All that's important is that nobody acts like they know what day it is. He goes through school all day, like flash that through like, three panels tops, to show his uneventful day as he's gradually worn down from school, stays behind for some after school club. Probably not debate team. I don't really see him as a debate team kind of a person. Maybe like staying behind for whatever the future equivalent of like Lego Mindstorms Club is. And like, that's a good time. Teachers tell him happy birthday and stuff. I'll just pick him up and then get home and boom, surprise party. Family's all there. Grandma and grandpa are there. Probably both grandmas and both grandpas. A bunch of friends from school who like skip their after school activities to get home and like, yeah, let's set up. Let's get ready for him when he gets there. There's cake, there's pizza. It's a good time.
Cake and then pizza? That's nuts. That's ridiculous.
Well, let's not go to skim orders here, but yeah, cake then pizza. It's the future. Maybe dessert comes first now. You don't know.
So, like, I imagine a panel of like him sitting at a kitchen table or whatever with a plate of cake in front of him and a plate of pizza next to the plate of cake. But what does he look like? Give me a physical description of your character.
At this point, when he's still, human looking, I think pale, freckles, light brown hair, sort of that like, yeah, you're definitely like Irish, British heritage kind of a thing, but not like stereotypically so. Not dark, not light eyes. I can't imagine the comic book artist to be super consistent with them, but they'd probably be in that like brown to green zone.
It's so funny you said that because it's like, of course, they wouldn't really care. They're going to only draw this dude for like 2 pages.
Right. And like that's about it. Like otherwise, he's 12. He looks like a kid. He hasn't really developed secondary sex characteristics yet. And I'd like to think somewhere in this scene, you have Grandpa or even great Grandpa Joe, sitting around being like, "Hey, you're a man now. That used to really mean something. These days, kids are all pussies. Let me tell you about my dad. He was drafted into the war. He had to be saved by an angel to get out of there. Sold his soul for it too."
So yeah, maybe Grandpa's getting a little bit too much into the birthday whiskey and is talking about growing up and being a man as you're stuffing your face with cake and pizza. Let me, before we move on from the birthday scene, I'm just going to ask you, what's the most important present he gets from his grandfather? The drunk one. From his grandfather, his parents, and from Natalie.
His parents get him a brand new Tesseract.
Wow, those are expensive. Brand new? Damn.
Yeah, like, I mean, he's 13. He only turned 13 months. But he's got to finish all his homework before he goes off and spends time on that thing. I like to think Grandpa, despite talking about what being a man is also kind of like a closet nerd, and probably gets him, not like, an issue 1 pristine condition, but like a nice like collection of like old comic books, like a couple of like trade paperbacks. Like, here's a couple of like 50-year-old trade paperbacks of like, the Punisher's Punisher kills the Marvel Universe again. Definitely like a mix of like the overly gratuitous, like violent type sort, like this is what it means to be a man, but also like, hey, here's some Spider-Man. This is what a hero looks like. Don't let those assholes in the sky tell you, how to act as a hero. Probably slips a Playboy in there too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Grandpa.
Like Scott is like thumbing through the comics and like goes to like just like whip that one out and like hold it up, and your grandpa's like, oh, hold on, no, maybe you save that one for privacy later, for when you get up to your room.
And then for Natalie, let's say she gets me a copy of her favorite fantasy novel. Nothing major, nothing big. It's just a book, but it's like hey, this is my favorite. I know it's 500 pages long, and the author likes to talk about how the trees looked for like 5 pages at a time, but it's my favorite, and I hope you enjoy it, kind of a thing.
Yeah, cool. Comic books, a Playboy, a fantasy novel, and a brand new gaming system. That's quite a damn good haul. Can you take me through the end of the party? Like, do people disperse, or does he go up to his room with his haul, like after all the other kids leave?
Yeah. I mean, like, he's not going to be like, oh, hey, fuck you guys, I'm going to go play some Tesseract. One way or the other, he's staying down there and hanging out with his guests and playing stupid party games and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's party games at the tail end of the party until like the crowd ends up dispersing. And I would imagine that like once the final guest leaves and says a final happy birthday to little Scotty, there's probably some cleaning up to be done. But that's probably the point at which your parents would be like, with whatever time's left in the night, you can go like set up the game system or play your play your comics, read your comics.
I imagine like it's like, oh, I'm just gonna get one game in. Let's plug in the Tesseract. Let's get this going. And it's like, oh, it has to update for the next 18 hours.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just go to bed then.
When he goes to bed, and obviously something very important is going to happen over the course of the night, what's the transformation look like? Like we see him in bed, falling asleep or asleep in one panel. And is it like a slow and steady? Is it something that doesn't really wake him up, or is it like visceral and painful?
I'd like to think it's slow and steady, like the kind of thing that you flash between like, the gradual change in him, along with like a dream he's having. And not even like yes, my child, now you are to become no, nothing like that. More just like a strange geometrics. Think like an old school, like Doctor Strange panel. Like, wow, what is this? Where am I? How weird. What are these strange glowing lights? But probably like every time he tries to speak, it's just this bizarre, like angelic script that comes out of his mouth instead. And the panels gradually become more and more geodesic, and he kind of takes on this cubist kind of a shape, all while outside of this, back in like reality in his body. He's having these small eyes burst all over him like pimples, and like these wings are just unfurling from his skin, which is sloughing off and revealing like a metallic sheen.
Yeah, I could imagine like one panel where he's like rolled onto his side and the cover's like half on his body, and the like a few wings are just like draped over his body in weird angles, and left in the depression from where he was laying on his back, there's just like a disgusting like heap of like gooey flesh or whatever.
Yeah, or even just like a dry husk he's leaving behind, like just shedding off big like dinner plate size skin flakes falling off essentially.
We get the bouncing back and forth between the bizarre dream that he's going through and the physical transformation he's going through in bed. What happens when he wakes up?
I like to think it's sort of thing like, wakes up, stretches like nothing's weird, but like all of his wings stretch with him. Still pretty groggy, looks out the window, and it's like the sunlight hits his now, somewhat reflective skin. His room just sort of erupts in this blaze of light, and like all of the eyes all over his body squint. And as he holds his arm up in front of his face to block out his eyes, not only is this completely ineffective in now screening all of his eyes from this sudden burst of light, but also he'll see the back of his arm, and it's like, oh no, kind of a thing.
Does he scream?
Probably like, makes it to a mirror first, sees himself, takes a moment, like, okay, all right, okay, I can handle this. No, I can't. And then starts screaming for his parents.
Flip the page. 3 years after Scott goes through this bizarre transformation. Or maybe not 3 years. I actually never asked you how old your character is in this game.
I kind of like him to still be an underclassman. So we'll go with like 15 years old. How about that?
All right. So it's 2 years after the transformation. We cut to lunch period with Scott at a table. What does he look like now in this particular panel, now that we see him 2 years later, having adopted this form, but also in public at school? Like, physically, what does he look like?
Now he's not so much defined as like, his body, but more like what is he wearing at any point in time. He's a character you'd always be able to pick out in any panel because he's always wearing these like massive baggy jeans, this dramatically oversized rumpled hoodie. Whenever he reaches for anything, like there'd very conspicuously be like fingerless gloves on his hands, and his hood would always be up with like this mop of light brown hair sort of cascading out from underneath it. I don't like to think that his face would have changed much aside from like a new metallic sheen to it, but even still, like his normal human eyes would still be covered by this mop of brown hair.
Yeah, so we see him sitting at the lunch table, and I think what pulls his attention away from whatever he's thinking on is someone snaps their fingers in front of his face kind of a couple of times, and he hears Natalie like right next to him saying, "Were you even listening to me?"
Huh?
That's what I thought. And she steals a few French fries from your lunch platter.
I meant, yeah, you can have French fries. That's cool. I don't mind.
She starts stuffing her face, and she says, I was asking you if you studied for the math test we have coming up.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. I didn't know that. No, I did not. I did not study.
She shakes her head and takes more of your French fries. How do you think you're going to do that? You still have to pay attention at school.
I pay attention. That's why I didn't study. I paid attention in class. You don't need to study if you pay attention in class.
Not everyone can just, she stuffs more French fries into her mouth, retain information that well. I spent an hour and a half studying last night. If you're telling me that you're not even going to study and you're going to go into there and do just fine again, well, she now just takes your whole tray of food. You're not really, she's one of those people that just keeps eating, but she never like girths out, I guess.
Can I at least have the cupcake?
Half. You can have half.
Yeah, that's fair.
And she splits the cupcake with you. And I think after that little exchange, we're treated to just a little bit, just another look at him going through his school day, just to see how he does that now that his life has kind of effectively been flipped upside down. Is his school day kind of the same as it used to be, or what are some of the differences we see compared to maybe some of the other panels from earlier on of him going through school?
A lot of it is probably him zoning out, looking out windows, honestly, generally having a real rough time paying attention, probably getting a test or two back with like, C minus, little notes saying, I know you can do better written on them. Just all little indications you'd have of him gradually tuning out of his life.
How does he actually do at that math test after lunch?
Probably not great. Probably a solid C. He's not failing, but he's certainly not trying as hard as he needs to really succeed.
So walking out of that math class, Natalie, the first thing she asks you is, how do you think you did?
Nailed it.
Her eyes kind of narrow, and she just says, you're such a jerk. I studied for so much and you just walk in here with so much confidence.
Oh, I mean, reality's what you make of it, right? Something like that.
I don't know if that's true. You know what? I hope you get that test back and you didn't do as well as you think you did. And she kind of punches your arm.
I hope you get your test back and you do better than you think you did. So punch her back in the arm.
Fine. And she punches you back again. And you guys can go to the next classes, and that's where we see him kind of rounding out the day. And what's his home life look at this point?
Home life, I'd like to think like at this point, his parents have been like, okay, well, we know why this happened. There's literally nothing we can do about it. So let's just pretend everything is normal. Yeah, nothing is different. Everything's fine. Have you considered trying out for baseball this year? Dad, I can't try out for baseball. I have super strength. Right. Of course you do, champ. You should give it a shot, though.
That's totally the exchange we're treated to if we're reading this first issue. That exchange happens at the dinner table. And it's totally just like laughed off. Like I almost want to imagine that Scott's mom doesn't even like participate in the conversation. His dad laughs it off, but she just like keeps staring at her plate and eating.
Yeah, like probably like smiling the whole time, just like, oh, this is normal. Everything is totally normal.
And then I think we like close out the day with him going to bed, but this time in his current transformed state. And maybe that picture of him in bed is pretty much identical to the one of him going to bed on the night of his birthday, except, now he's an eyeball angel. But either way, cutting ahead throughout, some school days come and pass. But I think the next portion of the story, the next part, comes after seeing that this life has become kind of routine. He's very much this outlandish, freakish, outstanding individual who's just been kind of thrust into a very mundane existence, it sounds like. I think since you described him as spacing out and not even necessarily being engaged, that it's almost becomes really obvious that there's just something, missing. There's something not right that goes beyond him just looking different.
Right. And it's something that he can, feel fundamentally in himself, even if he can't put words to it.
I think where we jump to next is focusing on him. I don't want to say aimlessly, maybe a little mindlessly, walking down a hall between classes, between periods, in whatever mental state he is, where he's not fully paying attention to his surroundings or maybe being a little lost in thoughts. He's passing through a crowd of people. Something does catch his attention and kind of draws him out, just like Natalie snapping her fingers in front of him in the lunchroom. That is the sound of someone, he sounds young, saying, "Hey, that's mine, give it back," drawing Scott's attention down a nearby hall where he sees a young, rather portly kid being like pushed to the ground by a very tall individual. And the tall individual quickly like backs around the corner, and the portly kid like scrambles to his feet to give chase.
I'll probably be like just watching that, look at Nat, look back at that. I got to go do a thing real quick.
She looks at you as if she didn't even as if she missed that whole thing. And she just gives you a perplexed look. Do you just leave?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, you head down the hall, and by the time you get to the end of the hall, you both hear and see this door leading outside, like to the back of the school, close.
I'll keep following. Like I'm not like running after them, but I'm, still walking at a good pace.
And taking the nice good pace stroll through the door, you open the door, and door gets to a very small cement staircase that goes down just a few feet, but you're open to, it's basically the back of the school, kind of leads right out to the parking lot. And almost right next to the door, you see the two people you saw earlier, this kind of portly kid who's just looking up like wide-eyed and with a mixture of like fear and anger as this tall, like lanky individual dressed in dark future goth clothing. Like he has lip rings and a whole bunch of piercings, through various parts of his head, and his clothing probably has super cool LEDs that light up a little bit as he moves, which is all the hit at future raves. But this tall individual has this notebook, this binder, and he's stuffing it into his mouth. Like his mouth is this gaping maw that just stretches as he pushes it in. And he's making this horrific sounding gulping sound as he's just forcing this thing into his gullet.
I'll like from the top of the, like they're below me in the stairwell, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're not too far below. It's one of those short stairs that only go down like 5 steps.
Okay, so like just walking to the edge of my little landing, I'll just like call down, "Hey, freak! You better be able to cough that up afterwards."
You say, "Hey, freak," and they both look at you like they both responded. And once you finish that, it's sickening how the tall individual, his mouth stretched as it is, like twists into a smile as he continues to push it down. And you could just see it bulging in his throat, which no one audio clip that. That's terrible. But you see the binder like sticking out of his throat, and the portly kid kind of just like looks at you with this expression of help. But he can't actually say anything. And the taller one almost like gloats a little bit, even though he can't talk because he has a binder in his throat. He just like gestures this like grandiose ta-da as the binder slowly continues to move down his throat.
Yeah, I'm not ready to act quite yet. I'll just, call it again like, "Hey, you gonna cough that up or what?"
With an over-exaggerated like twisting of his torso and head and throat, he basically twists and the binder moves from his throat into his chest, where you can still kind of see it, but his throat now clear. He just says, "I think that's a no." And he looks back at the portly kid and says, "Thanks for lunch." And the portly kid says, "No, that was mine. Give it back. Give it back."
I'll like start descending the staircase. Okay, look, before this becomes a thing, like, is that gone forever now, or can you actually like cough that back up?
Turns to you, twisting a little bit. "Only if I wanted to. I mean, one way or the other, this shit's gonna come out."
All right, well, that's all I needed to hear. In that case, I'll just like start just rolling up my hoodie, just like taking my shirt off. And as I do, I'll give him "Then I suggest you do that."
You actually like deepen your voice.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if it's something I do on purpose or not.
And I guess he's probably a little bit taken aback by like the weirdly heroic and forceful standpoint you're taking. And he straightens up his spine and says, "You're welcome to make me try, freak."
And I guess with that, I will like, finish taking off my hoodie, walk into like a, sunbeam so that it just like bounces off my metallic skin, scattering light everywhere, eyes flaring open, wings flaring out around me. As I say, "I think I will. If I may, I'd like to roll a Be the Monster."
To be the monster and to intimidate this fuckwit, you can roll 2d6 and add your freak score, and we'll see what happens.
All right.
Nice dice audio.
That's a 9 total.
So a 7 to 9 is a partial hit. So they still are like thrown off.
Oh, but I choose 2 bad things instead of 1 bad thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely going to frighten like the kid. I had not been intending on scaring. I was really focusing on, Jawman McSnakemouth. 2. So I've got like these weird, like, high tension bands of muscle sort of snaking between my eyes. I think as I say that, like, I'll flex outward and like accidentally like break the banister off the stair as I sort of push against it, like, oh, oops, bang.
Yeah, so in striking that like heroic pose and just like getting all intimidating up in this dude's grill, he definitely like I guess goes wide-eyed, takes a step back, like not expecting you to impose to such a degree. And there's this soft gasp from off to the side where the portly kid is standing, as he also probably wasn't expecting you to do this. And then wham, bang, like the railing of the stair comes crashing down as you accidentally break it apart. The lanky dude with a binder in his chest is like staring at you, not sure what to make of the situation, of what to make of your actual capabilities. He's definitely vulnerable, but he doesn't turn tail. Do you want to follow up in any particular way?
I'm not sure what vulnerable entails entirely, but I think I will try and directly confront him.
Oh, so you're going to like beat him up.
Yeah, like I'm not going to beat him up, but I will like move forward, grab him against a wall.
You can certainly be a bit forceful with him, but if you directly engage with him, he's obviously going to fight back. Like that's part of directly engaging a threat, which I think kind of fits for the situation. Something you could also consider is provoking someone gets them to do something that you want them to do, which could be cough up the binder. Whatever you choose to do, because he's vulnerable to you, I'm going to give you a +1 in your die roll, above and beyond whatever you already get.
Okay, yeah, I'm not great at it, but like I really don't want to beat the crap out of this guy right here. I think I'm just going to try and provoke him to like actually coughing up the binder. So like a straight up like intimidating him to just do the thing. Please, let's not fight.
So you're going to roll 2d6 and add your superior score, and then give yourself another +1 because he's vulnerable to you, thoroughly intimidated.
Great, net 0. Let's go. All right, that's an 8 total.
Okay, so you affirm now, and you're like staring him down with all your several eyeballs, and his like the corner of his mouth twitches into this like weird forced smirk as he with one hand pulls down his jaw and keeps pulling it down and reaches into his throat with his other hands and begins wiggling free the binder as he steadily plucks it from his mouth. It's now dripping with mucus and saliva. He coughs and spits on the ground and looks at you and says, "Wow, you're even more of a freak than I am." Like he just like casually tosses the binder to the side, but he's giving you influence over him. You can mark down that you have influence over, we'll just call him Snake Guy until you get his name.
His name's not Seth, is it?
It's totally Seth. I'm not even going to fuck with you. I might.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is. He seems to be just like impressed with the way you carried yourself, and he tosses the binder to the side and looks down at you because he's a tall motherfucker, and he says, "Satisfied?"
Yeah, actually, thank you. I appreciate you doing that. And I'll just start like awkwardly putting my hoodie back on.
This tall dude glances over at the portly kid, who now when he comes into focus, it becomes steadily obvious that he pissed himself when you intimidated the other guy, and he's just like standing there, but like he has his arms crossed in front of his crotch, but it's really obvious. He's not doing a great job at covering up, and the tall lanky snake dude like raises a hand and says, "You got lucky today, kid. Seems like you got your own little guardian angel.
I'll wince at that.
See you around." And he lankily struts away.
Now I've got my hoodie back on and in its general disarray. I'll look at the kid, try really hard not to look at his pants. I kind of look at his face and be like, you good?
Yeah, I think. And he scrambles for the binder, like picking it up off the ground and like wiping off mucus. He flicks it open, and you can see as he flicks it open, some of the pages inside are damaged just from being wet, but it looks like he's been like doodling comic art. Like he's been drawing heroes and comic panels and stupid shit like that.
Yeah, hey, that's cool what you do there. Please don't draw me. It makes me feel super weird. I'm just going to throw that one out there just right now.
He just looks down and says, "I'm not very good with eyes anyways."
Oh, great. That's super convenient for me. I'm going to go...
But wait, you are a hero, right? Like the way you stood up to him, to Python? Yeah, like you must be a real hero.
Python? Really?
Yeah, he nods. And he flips a few pages in the book, and he like shows you a dumb little doodle he made of Python. And he totally has like stink lines on him and like a speech bubble that says, "I am dumb."
Did you name him that, or is that something he goes by?
I'm pretty sure that's what he goes by. That's what they refer to him as.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, they're all named after animals. All of them animals.
Oh, well, okay. So if bad guys are named after animals, that's going to make being a high school superhero super convenient, easy.
As you like say that, and I imagine just like stretching or adjusting your hoodie or whatever, you see his hand, like he's watching you wide-eyed, and his hand slowly reaches to a pencil in his pocket, and he slowly pulls it out and flips to it.
What I say.
It's okay. I'm bad with eyeballs. What's your name?
Okay, I'm Scott. I'll just go over to shake his hand.
Yeah, he readily shakes your hand and says, I'm William. But what's your hero name?
I don't really have one yet. Like, I've been playing with a couple ideas. Like, let's be fair, I've got my options open to me. But, yeah, I'd take pointers.
He closes the binder and crosses his arms and gives you a look over and says, oh, your skin's metal, right? You could be you could be Metal Wing or Metal Eye.
Maybe something a little less anime?
Ooh, Angel Skin.
Ooh, I think my dad used to date a woman named Angel Skin. My mom got really mad about it.
Is your dad a superhero too? Are you like a legacy, like the Valors?
No, definitely not.
Oh, he looks really disappointed.
I have nothing to make you feel better about this.
He just looks down and says, I know. Usually no one has anything to make me feel better about these things. But hey, I made a new friend today.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So what do you do after school? Do you go like fight cry? Can I come? I'm going to come.
Actually, I'm usually, what is it? Say Tuesday? Hey, today's Tuesday. Today's robotics club.
And you do robots?
Yeah, no big deal. They sell the pre-made kits and everything. You just program it.
Okay. Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my information, and he, because I imagine like he probably still has like a phone or something. So he like pulls out a phone clumsily from his other pocket, and he like just flicks the screen towards you, and you feel whatever you use as a phone, if it's a phone or a watch or what have you, vibrate.
I've totally got the contacts. It's super uncomfortable.
Then his information pops up on your contacts.
Oh, my contacts don't vibrate. What a shame.
Yeah, I'm sorry to take that away from you. He says, you should let me know when you're going to do hero stuff again, or when you have some free time, or when you just want to hang out. I owe you one for this. I put a lot of hard work into my drawings, so like, even if you just want like some extra lunch or something. I don't have a lot of friends here, so that'd be really cool.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you know.
He lights up. All right, great. I look forward to it, Angel Skin.
Nope, definitely still not going with that. That's a stripper thing.
I'll keep thinking on it.
All right, if you can think a little more grandiose, that'd be cool.
He gives you a thumbs up as he like skips away because he's a loser, I guess. Skipping's not a loser thing. He totally awesomely skips away. It's great. It's majestic. So I'm also going to give you influence over William because he thinks you're awesome.
God. Actually, I like to think that Scott has this moment of like, what a loser. And at the same time, there's this thought of a truly innocent soul. And there's this moment of, the fuck?
Yeah. So you get influence over him as well. And what I would kind of like to do to maybe close off is talk a little bit about what happens from that. I'm assuming this kind of sounds like a one-off incident, him encountering this weird Python bully and saving this huge nerd. But like, does he tell Natalie about the incidents?
Probably not. Well, probably like sits down and is just like, hey, you ever met that William kid?
Is he really weird?
Yeah, tubby, think he's the grade below us. Draws a lot.
Oh, with the binder, yeah. He's kind of a nerd.
Yeah.
Did you talk to him?
Yeah, no, we exchanged words.
Scott, you made a new friend?
Don't start.
You haven't made a new friend since me.
Don't do it.
That's great. The three of us should hang out sometime. I really, it's good to see you hanging out with new people, with other people.
Why do you do this?
Did he give you his contact information?
I wish you wouldn't.
You should send it to me. I could get you a play date.
Don't you dare, but I'm going to send it to you anyway because it's funny. And I'll blink it at her.
Yeah, sure. So I think what I want to do to kind of cap this off is just a really brief, weird montage of you and I know Natalie's like your best friend, and I'm kind of pushing William on you because it's funny, but also so is Natalie. It's like, what are some things that happen? Like, when you hang out, what are the three of you, if you hang out, what do you do? What's like Scott's fun, or where does he get dragged along to do?
Okay, but for the record, when the three of us hang out, it's because I go to hang out with Natalie and she's invited William there already.
Every single time. Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. And she routinely is like, oh, I have to use the little girl's room. You two just hang out until I come back. And then she's gone for like half an hour.
Nope. Ugh. Or you're going to be like, okay, but you're not inviting William along this time, are you? She's like, no, of course not. It's just you and I. And then there he's like, look who I ran into.
And like when she's gone, I imagine like if this is a montage, there's definitely like a moment where William's like, Natalie's kind of hot, huh? I mean, who said that? And he just like goes down and starts drawing. He turns beet red.
Oh, wow. Did hit puberty somewhere in there, didn't you, bud?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's okay. No, she's really cute. Like, I agree.
So you gonna ask her out?
What? No. No, we're like best friends. That'd be so weird. So weird.
So yeah, what are some of the activities like you guys do? Is it video games? Is it future bowling, which is so much cooler than modern bowling?
Probably stuff like that. Like, I don't know, if skate parks are still a thing, definitely see a point where like Natalie's trying to teach William how to like do a kickflip and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. And like you said before, you're the asshole on the sideline yelling at him to do a kickflip.
Right. Like calling out like, hey, only losers wear our elbow pads. Oh shit, you just skinned the shit out of your elbow. Dude, I was kidding. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, like you say that, and the next panel is like him just like taking off his elbow pads, and there's like a thought bubble that says, I'm not a loser. Because he cares about what you have to say.
It's like, no, put those back on. You have fragile bones. Your mother told me. But yeah, stuff like that, probably like us at the movies. Natty and I looking generally unimpressed. Him being like totally enthralled. Definitely a superhero flick of some sort. At somebody's house playing the Tesseract, stuff like that. Yeah.
Great. And I think some of the things to highlight in this montage of panels that kind of rounds off Seraph's first comic is I feel like the three of you, like you guys get along, and I think it's obvious in each panel just the roles you fit in the trio that has been formed. William's just excited to be involved. He's excited to partake in these activities, and he's super hyped to like basically know a superhero, even though you haven't identified as that yet. And Natalie, it typically just like enjoys getting out and doing these things and kind of like toying with you a little bit. And then you standing off to the side, lost in thought or passively participating. And I think what might make this interesting is that the background of these panels, or the side portions of them, show like the other people around you guys. You draw several looks, and there's just this distance between you and like the regular folk in the backgrounds. Kind of like it's just you and your two buds, and the rest of the world doesn't really care to get any closer.
I also like the idea of like every few panels, like the people around me are suddenly like color coded or appear different or something like that. Just sort of like a little bit of that supernatural sight creeping in that I'm still desperately trying to ignore. Points where people are like reduced to silhouettes with like auras around them of varying intensity. Some random guy walking by suddenly like sprouts horns and wings or something like that. But the next panel, he's just a normal dude.
Yeah, just weird shit. But like if you're paying attention to the panels, you can certainly like find it out. But these things never happen to Natalie or William, do they?
I like to think no. Or like when I look at them, they always, appear as themselves, but occasionally like William will have like this pale blue aura around him that probably looks like maybe it's just like artistic license, like here's an outline for the character, but it's more meaningful maybe than you think.
the last panel of the comic, I almost want it to be like William's artistic rendition of your character, and handwritten at the top is a few rejected names, but then in like bold is Seraph.
Yeah, I like the idea of Scott, like, looking at that, you see it, and then just the speech bubble from him is just saying, "Man, you promised."
Whew, man. 5 issues. By my super amazing calculations, this means we're over a month into our podcast career. Since I'm recording this way before we release anything, I have no idea how we're doing. But regardless, I hope you've been enjoying the ride. With the introductory character stories out of the way, we're next going to turn to developing some character arcs and plot threads and all that fancy good stuff everyone likes. On deck are 5 more individual issues that lead into the big event of Horizon Volume 1. So strap in and get ready, because we've really, honestly, just begun. If you've enjoyed issue number 5, The Transformed, please feel free to hit us up on whatever service you're using to listen to our podcast. Doesn't matter, just pick one, I guess, and leave a comment, do whatever you want. You can also contact me on Twitter at Accursed, and if for some reason you really want to contact an actual literal snake, you can reach Seth at I Like Being Cool 1. That's ILikeBeingCool, the number 1, over on Twitter. You can also email the entire Critically Accursed podcast crew at criticallyaccursed@gmail.com. Either way, I will see you next time as we revisit the delinquent, Todd, in issue number 6. Until then. You're a superhero.